All right. So today I am joined by Michelle Gallardo, and Michelle is the Kids City Director at Hope Community Church. Excited you could join today, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here yet again. It's good to hang out with,
Absolutely.
not on
Well,
the end of like, hey, this thing, I need help with this.
absolutely. So always happy to help. And, I'm curious, Michelle, could you tell us a bit about just your background and everything you do at Hope Community Church?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on our central services teams, which we are a multi-site church. So we have different campuses all around what we call the triangle. So it's just the triangle of three major cities in the Raleigh area in North Carolina.
Mm,
And so my role on the team that I'm on the central team, is that we resource all of those campuses. So
mhm,
particularly my role is to create content that is going to be shown either on a Sunday morning within our children's ministry environment or through fifth grade, or any content that we need for events coming up, or parent talks that we have, any sort of um, information that we want to pass out in mass to our parents and anyone coming in from the outside. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge, but I like it. It's fun.
absolutely. Well, that does sound fun. And, speaking of fun, you were telling me the other day about an idea and some stuff you're doing to get kids to invite friends to church with them. So, could you share kind of what you've started doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always like to take a look at what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, what are areas that we can improve upon. And we were kind of looking at our ministry with eyes of saying, like, what are some gaps here? And we noticed that we don't really have intentional rhythms of encouraging kids to invite friends to come with them to church. That's just not
Mm,
typically how we're set up. I mean, because we are a larger church, we don't have as much mobility and flexibility as a lot of churches that are maybe smaller in congregation size, less campuses can, and we're really envious of that. And so um, we noticed that that is just not a consistent rhythm that we have. And of course, if we believe that this generation is the church, along with every other generation, then gosh, we should do something to help them mobilize their faith as they are starting to learn about their faith at the same time. And of course, a really important tenet of that is to spread the gospel wherever. And so we decided that we wanted to create intentional space for kids to
mm.
invite kids. And so we came up with something called Fifth Sunday Fun Day. We said, what would be a really good rhythm that is not stressful and overwhelming to our campus teams, to our small central team? And so what we looked at is we looked at a calendar, and we said, in a typical calendar year, how many months have 5 Sundays in a month? Hence the name, This Sunday Fun Day. And it works out to
Mhm.
be about 4 or 5, depending on the year. And so
Mm.
we have actually decided that within our children's ministry, so we call it Kids City. So within Kids City, we want to take that really special Sunday, and we really want to amp up the volume on that and make it an environment where kids want to bring their friends in because they're having so much fun. And so we actually in elementary, we break completely from orange curriculum, which is what we use primarily. We just kind of insert in our own
Mhm.
DNA. We break completely away from that, and we focus in on our tagline, which is more games, more fun, and more friends. Maybe rearranged, but essentially that's it. Still working on that tagline. But we want to make sure that we're living up to that. So we will add in kind of more games that are all plays, more that are not. We will intentionally share the gospel on those Sundays, and we do that either through live presentations through our large group leaders, or we create custom
Mhm.
in-house videos that share the gospel in a way that the kids haven't heard before. I actually have a shoot coming up tonight after I get off this call.
Okay.
Over there and start setting up for that. It's really exciting. And that happens primarily in our elementary environment, but our preschool nursery environment, we kind of take the structure that is already built in there just because it's like routine, and we inject in a little bit more fun and a little bit more of that. And we really, really emphasize just relationship building through this time. Like,
Mhm.
we know that Kids are more likely to know God if they know someone who knows God. And so we really want to
Mm.
lean into small group leaders. This is a time for you to connect relationally through fun with your kids and through the friends that they have brought. And so lean into that fun. Maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable in doing those things, but also we're going to provide space and opportunity for you to share the gospel with these kids. So that's essentially it. I mean, we change up the themes every fifth Sunday, but yeah, it's really exciting. We're seeing a lot of traction coming through it after we've done it for the past year plus.
Okay, awesome. Well, great idea and great to see some traction there. And, I'm curious, focusing on relationships and focusing on especially kids inviting friends that, may not have a church they call their church yet. What specifically like type of content and experience do you focus on? You mentioned a lot of like, hey, we're still sharing the gospel and we're making it fun, we're changing the theme, but I mean, what are some particular messages and activities that have just really worked well on those days?
Yes, so I have to tell you. So we are pretty tight on our structure of how we do a Sunday morning. Just there's so many moving pieces. We don't want to make it too confusing and change everything
Mhm.
all the time. But this past fifth Sunday, which was back at the end of January, which, again, if you live even a little bit north, you're like, is it going to snow? So we
Yeah.
were a little bit nervous going into this. Will we be able to have church? But we actually restructured it completely in a way that we've never done before. And I'm
Mhm.
talking specifically in our elementary environments.
Mhm.
We set up the flow of the morning where it was a live gospel presentation. But normally, when we do those kind of things, it's presented by our large group leader because that is just the easiest way to have a consistent message across going to a large group.
Mhm.
But this time, we actually really, really emphasized elevating a few of our small group leaders to be the ones that are communicating to a larger than normal group of kids for them the gospel. And so we actually did that through an object lesson. A little silly. We had when we share the gospel at Hope, we talk about God loved, God gave, we believe, we receive, and we've attached little like icons to each of those phrases. So like God loved, there's a heart, and so on and so forth. And so we took um, cotton candy. I don't know if you've ever seen
Mm.
those really cute videos with the raccoons and they have a piece of cotton candy and the raccoons wash
Yes.
their food and they wash it and the cotton candy just disappears. So it's like,
Oh.
oh, so cute. So cute to see the raccoon. A little less cute for kids, but we took that same concept. We're like, we're going to use this as an object lesson. And so we
Mhm.
took those like little laminated icons and we slipped them into the pieces of cotton candy and had like a whole station set up. And so as the large group leaders kind of helping move the conversation along. The small group leaders are holding up, okay, I need a kid to take these and dip it in there. What do we see? What picture did we just discover when all the cotton candy disappeared? And let me tell you, it was a hot mess, but the kids have never been more engaged. And walking
Okay.
around and seeing just like normally, in the best case scenario, we have about 10 kids or less in a small group. So this was like 25 to 40 kids
Oh,
in one
no.
group, and all of them were so engaged as we went through and discovered what it is to be known by God and have a relationship with God, and essentially walking through
Mhm.
John 3:16. And
Awesome.
then, of
Well,
course,
yeah.
we had lots of fun. We ended in a snowball fight. The parents were coming in. Some of the
Okay.
parents jumped in. It was amazing.
Sounds like it. I mean, yeah, cotton candy is a great idea, and using it in an unintuitive way there. It's like, "Hey, no, we're not eating the cotton candy, we're doing something
Well, some did, but
better." So, fair enough, fair enough. So, yeah, that is great, great takeaway. Sure, a lot of people are gonna steal that. So, going shifting gears was really interesting, Michelle's how you mentioned, you like to prioritize looking at your ministry and looking for gaps, looking for rooms for improvement. Like, what specific things do you look for, and like, what process do you and your team have as look for needs for improvement?
well, I wish I could tell you that we had a formal way of evaluating that, but a lot of it's just like through observation, through hearing feedback from parents, from volunteers, and then from our campus coordinators, and just seeing like where do we want to be 5 years from now, and what do we not
Mm.
have currently in place that is going to help us get there? What do we have that's currently in place that maybe either needs to go away or we need to tweak and adjust to help us reach that goal. Um, so usually we look around and say, are kids engaged? Are they bringing friends? Are they actually understanding and internalizing the things that we are communicating with them and teaching them about God and how God is impactful in their life today and how they can do big things today. So those
Mm.
are just kind of, I know, super vague, but that's basically what we do. And we, of
Hey,
course, do like the nitty gritty things, track numbers, good things, things that I enjoy, but not maybe not other people.
absolutely. Yeah, well, that is great. And, I like that idea better of instead of saying, hey, like, you know where you want to be in 5 years, but that's the goal, but it's not the plan. Because there's a big difference between saying, hey, we want to be here in 5 years, and we're just going to hope that happens versus what you're doing, which is identifying some obstacles. So, I'm curious, what are some of the big goals you have, both short term and long term?
Absolutely. So we, as a whole church, are moving towards. So this is like including adult ministries and like people who serve in a variety of ways, and just a normal like someone that comes in on a Sunday. We are working towards
Mhm.
building families that thrive, and marriages
Mhm.
that thrive, and all those things that are thriving and growing. And so our long-term goal is what are the best ways that we can help families now? Families want
Mhm.
things that are very practical, very easy. They're not something that are super involved. What are things that we can provide support and equip parents to have those conversations at home, help marriages and like husband and wife and so on, have conversations at home? Like, how can we help them come alongside them to create a thriving relationship with each other?
Mhm.
And of course, with God as well.
Mhm.
And so
Absolutely.
long term, that is what we're shooting for. Short term, we're
Awesome.
trying to make it through the day. We're trying to incorporate some milestone events. Again, kind of those are pushing us towards this family thrives. Uh, those are the little things.
Yeah. Okay. So then, pulling on that thread, Michelle, could you share a bit about those milestone events and the other ways you're structuring your environment to foster those relationships?
Absolutely. So I'm speaking specifically for Kids City, for our children's area, and then I'll talk a little bit about middle school. We
Mhm.
notice, especially, I'm sure we are not alone. I'm sure this happens in every church across the nation, across the world, no matter where you are, who you come from, like all the things. We notice that there are peak times when we have a really large engagement of an audience. And we also know that there are some natural ebbs and flows within a family's life, and they're
Mm.
especially when they are talking about their relationship with God and how committed they are to coming to church and learning about God, like whatever that is. We can see that there are ebbs and flows of that. And there are particular ones where either the numbers drastically drop or they are
Mhm.
very high. So a perfect example of this of when they're very high is when we have a preschool environment. So preschoolers that are going from, you know, pre-K, TK, whatever it happens to be, and they're making that leap into the real world, into elementary, and that's when they start
Mhm.
school. That's when they start having a little bit more stricter routines. You have a lot of young families, a lot of young parents, and they're nervous that they're going to get it wrong, and they want support, and they're really heavily engaged in helping their child transition well into this new world that is going to be a part of their life for at least the
Mhm.
next 12 years, but hopefully more, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not a and so we want to really we've created a milestone event that we stole probably from some orange partner site on Facebook. We call it Bouncing On. Hey, it's great. Let's
Okay.
share ideas.
Oh yeah.
We call it Bouncing On, and we gather our rising kindergartners, is what we call them, and their parents together, and we build relationship with them. We pull the parents
Mm.
aside and entertain the kids for a little bit. We talk to the parents about, hey, this is the next phase that's coming next. Here are some resources for you. Meet your campus person. They're going to be the ones that are going to walk alongside you for the next 5 years, 6 years. And so we have that in our rising kindergartners. Now, the different story, and I'm sure this is the one that everyone sees everywhere, is that leap from elementary to middle school. Like the drastic
Mm.
drop off in attendance from fifth grade to sixth grade is really troublesome. Um,
Mhm.
and so for us, we were highly bothered by that. And so we decided, like, if we want to retain students, if we want to retain families and keep them engaged in the church, keep them growing in their relationship with the Lord, then we need to do something about that. And without even saying like what are well, we did say like what are the things that um, keep a fifth grader from going into our middle school environments? What are some
Mhm.
factors that come into play? What do we know about middle schoolers and what do we know about fifth graders emotionally, developmentally, like all the things that would keep them from doing that? And a lot of it that we believe is that there's a relationship piece missing, especially the size of church
Mm.
that we are. I mean, some campuses are larger, some are smaller, but we think, we hope that a lot of where that gap is that kids maybe don't feel seen, that they don't feel like if I didn't show up, no one's going to notice. And we desperately, desperately want them to not believe that. And so we are actually trying really intentionally. This is our first full year of doing this, of reaching
Mhm.
fifth graders and helping them have opportunity to build relationships, not only with each other in intentional ways, but also with the parents. And so we want to build relationships with parents and we want to help parents build relational equity with their fifth grader because once they come in sixth grade, everything changes.
Yeah.
um, and so we've actually taken the entire fifth grade year and we've called it fifth grade twisted because it's
Okay.
full of twists and turns. And so we kicked off our year in like September playing a game of twisted kickball, and all the parents came
Mm.
in and all the kids and small group leaders and coordinators. They played a crazy game of kickball. And just recently, to kind of like end the year, we had something called Twisted Arcade, which is the same thing except it was an all campus in. It was crazy, let me tell you. It was awesome. Kids had a lot of fun. And it was really intentional. Like, not only are you guys building here, but also here's our middle school coordinators. When you're about to move into this new environment, this is the face that you're going to see. And they can already start building relationships ahead of time. So those are just like in Kid City a little bit more. And then we also have one more event when they're actually sixth graders. um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, and I really like, the idea that I'm sure a lot of folks can relate to is there's a specific age, fifth to sixth grade is the big one, the big one where a lot of kids they may drop off in coming to church, which obviously we don't want to happen because that affects the overall their relationship with God. So, uh, yeah, just I like how you're applying like maximum effort to those particular spots. And, I'm kind of curious, what is just some other advice you'd have for kids pastors that want to, work on those gaps in their ministry or get the kids in their ministry to invite more folks?
I think sometimes we can be in our bubble, our own little bubble. Like we're in the daily
Mm-hmm.
grind. We're doing the things that we know how to do. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can get so used to that we don't even see the things that are right in front of us, or we forget to ask the people that are actually involved in our ministry. I think even just
Mm-hmm.
starting with a simple survey of parents that attend your church, what are some ways that you want to connect with your kid? What are some ways that you're nervous about or anxious about your kid and what you want for them long term, whether that's safety, security, being emotionally intelligent, like whatever it happens to be, biblically literate. I don't even know. Like, what are those concerns that you have as a parent, and how can we come alongside you? You're not in isolation, no matter your position. Like you have this incredible resource in the people that are part of the body of Christ that are in this church, and go ahead and ask them. They are the most invested people in the lives of their kids. And that is just a great resource to tap into. And even just having maybe even secret shoppers, have someone come
Mm-hmm.
in from the outside and say, I want you to observe us from start to finish. What are some things that you see as an outsider that I no longer can see because I've
Mm-hmm.
been in it for so long?
Okay. Yeah, so with the outsiders coming in to observe your ministry, um, who are those people typically? Are they other people from other churches? Like, who do you recruit for that?
I mean, really, it could be anyone you want, but I would probably
Uh-huh.
say someone else, like locally at another church. I mean, that's another thing, right? You have other children's ministers, family ministers that are in your area that you live, work, play in, and
Mm.
they might be feeling the same things that you're feeling. They could be doing something that you hadn't even thought of, but they have it on the ground because that's their forte, and you might be doing something that they never thought of, but you would never know if you didn't connect together. So I would say like reach out, um, ask someone locally, like, hey, can we grab coffee? Can I come in on a Sunday and just like walk around and observe things and pick your brain a little bit? There's no gatekeeping, at least if there is, there shouldn't be any gatekeeping of information. I would start with that.
Yeah, well, that is great, because you can't see it, but someone else probably can. So, yeah, well, really appreciate the tips and advice, Michelle. I mean, lots of actionable stuff here. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome.